Greetings. This video is about TPOT 18. Specifically, its writing, pacing, and presentation. Don't take this as me bashing the show, or its creators. I love bfdi, and just want to see it improve, which is why I won't just point out the flaws and problems, I will also suggest solutions. And even if this video doesn't reach anyone working at Jackangelify, I hope it will at least help you. If you are making your own show, this review is intended to be a learning experience as well. However, I am not a professional, so it's highly recommended that you still seek out other sources of knowledge besides this video. So without any more preamble, let's begin. A lot of people disliked this episode, many didn't understand what was going on, and it has gotten to a point where its ranking is on par with most of Post-Split. Why so? How did bringing back the Post-Split gang allow the bad quality of their season to sneak its way into TPOT as well? The reason is simple, TPOT 18 is not just poorly paced and written, it is fundamentally broken. Let's start from the beginning. So let's assume that the purpose of the episode was to catch up on what was happening with the Post-Split gang after their season ended. How could one do this? Perhaps through a series of flashbacks? Alright, this is not a bad start and has some good potential, but for whatever reason, the episode decides to lock those flashbacks behind a pseudo-challenge, where the characters need to hop between memories and find where Lollipop's credit card went. Which, even on paper, already sounds really convoluted. And a convoluted episode idea would need a very careful and intricate way of executing it. Did the show's team manage to do it? It did not. There are already a lot of characters in Post-Split, but adding more to juggle around through these weird memory mined copies of already existing characters just made things even harder to manage, and as a result, the show's team took surprisingly too much upon themselves for such a simple episode. But wait, my dear straw man, you might object to me.
Why would you care so much about a fun filler episode and take its issues so seriously? It doesn't move the plot forward anyway. What are you, afraid of some fun and whimsy?
Well, I love fun and whimsy just as much as you, but I like good quality fun and whimsy. As a true master of my craft, food analogy time. You can't just throw random sweet ingredients into your dish and think that the result will always taste good. Even baking cupcakes requires some salt. So what I'm trying to say is, something being fun doesn't excuse it from being poopy ploppy doo-doo of no substance. That is still a problem. You know, maybe I am taking this too seriously. Back to the episode. With so many characters to juggle, two situations happening at the same time, plot threads being scrambled together into a chaotic ball instead of being woven into a delicate article, the experience becomes a jumbled, barely functional mess. The viewer doesn't even get any time to breathe and process what just happened, leaving them confused. All this may sound grim, but hypothetically, this episode could have had a much better execution. But in order to come up with a good possible rewrite, we will need to understand the core of its problems and why they appeared in the first place. At the end of the review, I will present my own take on this episode's premise. How good it is will be up to you to decide though. So let's start digging into the issues. To really make the episode better, let's throw the pseudo-challenge idea out of the window, make it an actual series of flashbacks, and see what we can salvage, while, yes, still keeping it fun and whimsy. In order to write this hypothetical better version of TPOT 18, we need to think carefully about which characters to focus on. Because for a compelling story we can't focus on everyone. That's right, bold claim, I know. But it's simply the truth. BFB and TPOT have received a lot of criticism for giving some characters a lot of screen time while leaving others behind. For some reason, a lot of people think that the solution to this is to give everyone equal screen time in each episode, but that's just not going to work. I'll show you why. Let's say each character is actually equally treated and has their own plot thread already planned out for them. What if we try to meaningfully fit all 40 of these in an episode? If we assume that a single thread takes around 10 minutes to be executed, that means that each episode would have to be roughly 6.5 hours long. That is ridiculous and is not realistically producible. And if you decide to take away time from each character to make it feasible, well, for the most part, you get normal TPOT. The characters don't have enough to get anything done. We get the contestants just bumbling around and then getting eliminated because they didn't really do anything interesting or compelling to earn the love of the viewers. The funny thing about this is that this problem was already solved in BFB. Most early episodes focused on only a few teams, while putting the rest somewhere in the background. This allowed for engaging stories because the focus never drifted away from what it started with, and we could see the story of that specific team dynamically and beautifully unfold with no interruption. You may argue that this way, some characters will get eliminated before it's their turn to shine. But the solution to this is: just don't put that character's team up for elimination if you plan to do more with them in the future. However, this way of handling the screen time distribution has a great flaw, and it's that bias can really mess it up. If the writer doesn't give a damn about specific characters or wants them gone, then the fans of those characters are in deep trouble. It also doesn't work well with stories that are supposed to span across several episodes. If the writer really wants to finish a story like that, the team that has the characters required for that storyline will have to just miraculously avoid elimination for 5, 10, or maybe even 15 episodes, which would frustrate some viewers, as it will look unfair to them. But that's just a byproduct of viewer voting in general. It's a harsh truth, but some writers just need to suck it up and accept that their stories will get cut short. But let's not forget that these writers aren't required to suffer through that by some object show law. Viewer voting is a two-way game. It not only lets the viewers have fun by influencing the show's events, it also gives the writer an interesting challenge. The writer will need to figure out a creative way to deal with the new affairs presented to them by the voting result. They might have to abandon their old plot thread ideas and create new ones. And if the writer doesn't like the kind of challenge that the voting game can and will present to them, then they just should not play. Here's my advice to you: use contestant voting if dealing with the unpredictable nature of viewer voting does not sound like fun to you. Actually, I'm not done with the section yet. Now that we understand why screen time shouldn't be given to literally everyone equally, it's time to decide who should be getting it. This is a really complicated topic we're dealing with here. I rewrote this section several times, but kept being unsatisfied with the result each time. So let's simplify it and just say, for convenience, that each character has a role to play in the show's isolated, episodic plots. And some characters may fit into certain roles better than the others. And if you try to shove a character into a role they don't fit into all that well, you risk either breaking their personality, or the tone and format of the show. Let's take Pi as an example. Pi is a very simple character. She can be described as being somewhat curious and thoughtful. But the main trait that makes her unfit for having a big dramatic arc with development and all that stuff is that she is averse to conflict. While she's not completely uncaring, all outcomes are fine to Pi. She loses, she wins, it's fine either way. To have a story, two or more forces must oppose each other, and these forces represent ideas in various ways. The forces can be two characters, or maybe even one character and their inner demons, or one character against the system. And making Pi enter a conflict of ideas would require breaking her personality, or shifting the tone and format of the show. She can be a great support or comic relief. But a main character going through turmoil? Not saying that it can't be done. She has the potential, but it's gonna take too much to be executed. Good characters to pick for lead roles are ones that can naturally come into conflict when put together. Having teams makes it a bit easier because they're in conflict by default. I'm gonna be honest with you people, I don't know much about this pacing business, and I'm not that experienced in its craft, so I probably won't be able to determine the exact issues with this episode regarding it. One thing I know for certain, though, is that pacing either breaks it or makes it. You can have the most wonderful story with the best writing ever, but if it's paced badly, well, what can I say? It'll be a waste of talent. I am not sure if you can make a badly written story enjoyable with good pacing on the other hand, though. Do you know any examples yourself? But boy, TPOT 18 is so badly paced, I didn't even get what was happening the first time and what even the point was. I may not be a master myself, but I do know a few pacing tricks. The first one is giving the viewer a breather. In film or animation, you can't have a continuous stream of action, as it will exhaust the viewer, since new information and facts about the story keep coming in, without any pause for the viewer to process it. You know, to really let the facts of the matter sink in. The viewer will feel like they're at a lecture where the professor doesn't slow down. So yeah, the story beats need to take turns between action and a period of calm. In this episode, the hopping from memory to memory is continuous and doesn't stop for even a moment. What makes it even worse is that the amount of information to process is doubled. We have the current storyline plus the storyline from the past, so the viewer is just outright being stuffed with story. A better way to deal with it is to probably let the events of the past play out first, then we see our current versions of the characters get teleported in, confused at seeing copies of themselves, but not interacting with them right away. For then comes in and explains everything. And only then do we get to see the main action take place, probably through characters approaching their memories and asking if they've seen anything. We can go further, since technically the characters themselves should remember that they didn't see any credit card shenanigans happen in the specific memories. Asking their past selves would be redundant, meaning we can cut that out and reduce the blow to the episode, or replace those moments with pauses. Also, the match reunion scene was terribly paced and presented, but I can't pinpoint why, so just trust me bro, it just is. This is the part where I try to fix it. I'll try to stay as close to the original episode as possible. So it'll still start with Lollipop writing the letter to 4. We need a plot to center the episode around, to keep things consistent, so I guess the credit card plot will stay. But since I decided to throw away the memory hopping and make the episode be a series of flashbacks, the joke will be that it literally takes months to find the card, with various events surrounding the quest for it. So yeah, let's begin. Sometime in the past, Lollipop writes her letter asking for help from 4 and sends it to him, but 4 rejects it and tells her that even if he is on good terms with her, it doesn't mean he'll do her every bidding and disappears. Flour and Gelatin notice Lollipop next to the mailbox and run up to her, asking for business advice. She offers them her book with bad advice and, oblivious, they buy it. They thank her and run off to do business. While running, Flower sees Ruby and Bubble sitting on a bench. She waves at them and says hi to Ruby. The focus is now on the bench sitters. Bubble remarks how much Flower has changed, and wonders if Match and Pencil could change too. Ruby doesn't want to come off as weird, but still decides to admit that she kind of misses Match and Pencil, and hopes the exit wasn't too rough on them. Bubble doesn't miss them as much, but sometimes does wonder what they're up to now. Fade to black. Next flashback. Flour and Gelatin wonder why their stocks are going down. After reading a line from Lollipop's book that suggests they invite Loser to promote their products, with the reason being that he was popular, and bringing back old stars is the new trend, they do invite him over and ask him to do something, anything. Loser doesn't have any ideas. Gelatin remembers Loser's cereal brand and says he used to eat it all the time when he was 6, and suggests they start selling something similar and have Loser officially endorse it. Loser is reminded of the secret winners he put into it, and says they could use that cereal idea to rebuild old connections and form new ones. Flour and Gelatin don't understand him, so they just make vanilla flour flavored cereal with gelatin pieces in it. Ruby barges in and invites Flour to go shopping with her. Flour pulls out a comically large bag of money and runs off with her. They meet Bubble on the way and ask her to join. Bubble tells them that what Flour did to her in season 1 still gives a sour taste in her mouth and that she needs time to figure out her feelings in order to forgive Flour, but she's okay with Ruby being friends with her. Flour says that this is really out of nowhere, and Bubble admits that she tagged along with them all this time only because she didn't want to kill the vibe and disappoint Ruby. Ruby says it's okay, and Flour says that she is kind of bummed out about all this but in the end accepts it. As Ruby and Flour walk away, Flour says that she really needs to apologize to everyone someday, but it's hard to do because she still has that jerkish, stubborn part of her that tells her she was completely justified in everything and that it wasn't that big of a deal. Ruby is more easygoing and tells her not to worry about it, it'll all solve itself eventually. Fade to black. Next flashback, Lollipop, Taco, and Gelatin are hanging out together at the steakhouse. Lollipop asks Taco if she found her credit card yet, and Taco replies that she already told her that she looked everywhere. Lollipop remarks that it's been like a trillion years since she lost it and it's ridiculous that it hasn't been found yet. She suggests Taco to look in Ruby's house since that brainless money-wasting gem is the most likely to steal money. But Taco says that Ruby gets all her money from Flour's business and only sometimes stealing. Gelatin is suddenly shocked because he misinterprets that as Ruby stealing from their businesses and decides to ban her from entering the steakhouse. Woody is about to enter the steakhouse to order some food, but as he hears their conversation, he asks if he's banned, and Gelatin says no. Taco notices a credit card in Woody's hand with a suspiciously crossed out name. Taco says that she needs to go and check something. She finds Blocky and calls him out on stealing Lollipop's card. Blocky is confused because he didn't know she even had a card, and says that when ordering himself a card, Woody got his own name wrong and crossed it out to then write it correctly. But now that there's a card on the loose, he's out to get it, making Taco grunt. Cut back to Gelatin and Lollipop, with Flour confronting Gelatin about banning Ruby. Gelatin tells her that she obviously steals their money. Flour retorts that there's no way her best friend would steal from her. She finally convinces Gelatin, and he sighs, wondering why their business is not working out if it wasn't for stealing. They did everything Lollipop's book suggested. Lollipop then admits that the advice in it was bad on purpose to get rid of competition, because that's what good businessmen do. Gelatin says what? Cut to 4 recovering Lollipop inside her house. Blocky is searching around the room for her card, which offends her. They have a little fight and it's revealed her card was inside the couch the whole time. Lollipop asks 4 to punish the criminal Blocky and get him out of her house, but 4 blasts her instead. Cut to Flour and Gelatin now wondering what to do. Gelatin suggests they write their own books with bad advice and then sell them to everyone. Fade to black. Next flashback. X is reading a book on making friends written by Flour and Gelatin, and it says that the best way to find a friend is to find someone who looks exactly like him. X then comes to the conclusion that he should befriend Spongy, since they are both squishy and yellow. X approaches Spongy, who is hanging out at the beach, and Spongy says that he doesn't mind company, especially if it's someone like X. He also suggests that they should invite Loser over as well since he's sort of X-colored too. X tries his hardest and finally manages to teleport loser to the beach, and remarks how this is just like have-nots. X then reads that they should start insulting each other because playful banter is always the way to go. X calls loser a loser and asks if he's having fun now. Loser says he just got there and doesn't understand what's happening. X says that he's testing out the advice from his book, and assumes that the reason why loser and winner aren't friends anymore is because they look nothing alike. Loser is shocked to hear that name again. X tells him that they're in TPOT now, and that he can prove it to loser by connecting him to the memory device. Loser observes winner's presence in TPOT through X's memories and decides to go and meet them again. X wishes him luck and goes back to Spongy. Fade to black. Next flashback. Ruby and Bubble are playing with puddles, and you know what? Screw this. I don't really feel like finishing this last flashback, since I am already unsatisfied with the video. But I don't feel like remaking the video completely, so I'll just stroll with it and release this imperfect work. If some of the points I made are unclear or it feels like they don't lead anywhere, feel free to ask in the comments and I might elaborate there. You can also tell me if you want to see more reviews like this in the future or not. Until then, see ya. And don't forget to watch my object shows on my other channel.